Hey, it's TDA, and today I want to show you Tower Dominion, which has kind of become my go-to game whenever I need a palate cleanser. It's a really easy to pick up game that you can play for a short time, or a very long time if you want to, because it's quite addicting as well. Now, this is a tower defense game, so if you don't like those, you're not going to like any of this video, but if you do like it, well, keep watching. In this game, you can pick a faction out of 3 different ones that are available, and each of these different factions has different commanders which affect your gameplay. You're going to get a couple of abilities from your faction and then a couple of abilities from your commander. Other than that, there's a lot of shared elements between these games. There's a lot of difficulty settings that you can pick depending on what you have unlocked. And the nice thing is, the more you play the game, the more things you unlock. And I've not played this game too much yet, and you can see I have quite a few things unlocked already. For this particular playthrough, I'm going to go with Sergeant Gurtag, which is going to buff my headquarters, which is the building we need to keep alive, and he has its own turret on top of the HQ, which is going to buff the damage of that HQ even further. So basically, this is all going to revolve around buffing our headquarters as much as we can. I'm going to be playing at Tier 3 difficulty, 32 waves, just to show you that this game is not easy. As you can see, you unlock Tier 4 once you actually complete Tier 3, so who knows, maybe this will be the first time this actually works for me. Okay, so let me throw you into a game and show you what I'm talking about. So we have supply, which is basically the currency we use to acquire most of our buildings. We need to unlock buildings in order to be able to place them down, so that is something you need to take into account. We have recon as well, which we're not currently gaining actively every turn, but that's a secondary currency that we have. And then we have the tech, which is a rare currency that you can only use in a few places, but we'll get to that if and when we can actually find some of that. Now, we have the headquarters HP over here. We have 3 battlefronts, which means we have 3 completely unconnected ways of the enemy to get to us. And we have 6 entry points, so basically every open space here on the map that you can see is a place where enemies can spawn. Now we can place every now and then some of these new tiles, and you can completely design your own map by doing so. Now the nice thing about that is that this allows you to completely customize where the enemy will come from. Whatever tiles you get is completely random. You use recon if you want to re-roll some of those, but as you can see, it's pretty expensive. And long story short, you are going to be in charge of designing your own battlefield. Now, I don't think it really matters where we place this now, although you do need to keep in mind that the enemies are roughly split between all the entry points. So if I, for example, do this, then I have 2 less entry points. So more enemies will be spawning from the remaining ones. Whether or not that's a good or bad thing completely depends on, of course, how we design this. Now, what I actually kind of think that we could be doing is try to connect these things up so we only have a single battlefront remaining, maybe? I don't know. But for now, let's just place this corner up here. Now, there's a couple of buildings we have already available. We have a bunker. Every building has a different angle of attack. So you can turn it around, as you can see, and all the blue ones are the default areas where this building can attack. And then the yellow ones are determined by the height of the building. So the higher we place this, or the lower we place it, the more or less range it will have. So if I place it on level 0, as you can see, we only have the blue tiles. But every time I move it up 1 level, then this turret will be able to reach more places. Now, each turret has its specialization as well. Sturdy bunkers basically want to be next to other sturdy bunkers. The Mirador is a building that can detect camouflage units, which is going to be important, but can also buff the headquarters. And then we have the officer quarters that are going to tie into these grenadiers that we're going to be producing every turn, which is a special thing that this faction has. Now, to begin with, you can actually also upgrade your headquarters themselves, and I'm going to do exactly that. I am going to add some weapons to my headquarters. Now, it's important to realize that you can only pick one of these 2 upgrades, so either I can buff my infantry or I can buff my headquarters, and considering this guy is all about their headquarters, and this is exactly what I want to do, I am going to add some more weapons to the mix as well. So now I added just 12 weapons to this, and you can see all those weapons actually appearing on this headquarters as well. So upgrading the buildings in this game is really nice, and we can send in the first wave. Now you can see random enemies are going to be spawning all over the place. I'm not entirely sure if I have it sped up yet. No, I don't. And as soon as we defeat the first wave, which was trivial of course with everything that we just had, we are going to pick a bundle between 3 different options. It is different type of attack units, certain unlocks that you can get that are going to buff certain things. Right now I'm looking at this control of inventory. 20% supply production is really nice because that's going to be benefiting me for another 30 turns. so getting this early is obviously very valuable. Now that means we didn't get any new turrets to unlock. I don't have enough to unlock any of this. At some point I definitely want the Durendal turrets because these are really expensive, but they're also really strong. But maybe a Mirador or two is going to be nice, but for now I don't have the money to do so. Now you can see the strength of this particular headquarters. It's just destroying all the enemies that are coming in. And that is because we just upgraded it quite heavily. Getting 400 supply very early on is actually really good as well. The Bastion, let me check out the map. The Bastion is something that shoots in the cross, which is really nice with areas like this. So we might want to pick up a Bastion or two as well. But for now, yeah, let's just go with the 400 supply, because that is going to be really powerful. Now, if I do something like... let's see, something like this. We could start thinking about connecting this up, and that would make the amount of spawning points a lot smaller. On the other hand, we could just keep everything split up. Not entirely sure what's the best way forward. I'm gonna try to connect everything up. We have no neutral buildings spawning yet, but we do have a lot of supply now, so let's see. The Miradors want to be adjacent to the headquarters. So if I place this down here, I can cover both these two angles. And the Mirador has an upgrade to gain detection and another defender, so that's what I'm going to pick. I could also pick an increased damage and fire rate, which is obviously a pretty solid solution as well. We can either add it, give it some additional damage, so 200% damage, so that's quite a lot for 1100 supply, that's quite a bit. Or we can just have it have another defender on top of it. And then what I'm going for is this close support upgrade. This is going to buff the HQ's damage by 15% and also give it 5% repair. So if it does take damage, it's going to return that back to a normal state at the end of that turn. As you can see, I didn't actually spend all my supply just yet. Mostly, so the enemies are getting closer over here, mostly because I want to make sure I have enough to get that upgrade. Okay, so let's see, we can either buff the HQ, which I don't think is particularly useful so far. Let's just go for the supply again and unlock this over here. Okay, so we can get the close support upgrade, which is going to buff the damage of the HQ. And if you now click on it and you check out the weapons, you can see this greenish upgrade. That is the damage increase that we're currently applying, which is quite substantial already. And I think I'm gonna add another one of these Miradors on this side. Again, with a little bit of height, so it can also cover this middle route. And again, adjacent to the headquarters, so we can start upgrading that as well. Now, once we have these two up and running, what I think I want to be doing is going for the Durendal turrets next. So we have some additional oomph to put into our headquarters. Okay, and there we go. We can either get 100 supply and additional damage on rerolls, but I don't plan on rerolling too much. The Warwolf is actually pretty nice. It's a nice little artillery type of upgrade. Yeah, let me put in this corner so we can maybe kind of close this off. If we get another corner like that, we can close this off as well. We just limit the amount of places where the enemy can get to us. Now, that's also kind of a disadvantage because that does mean we need a lot of firepower on that particular angle. From that perspective, maybe it might even be better just to have the enemy coming from a lot of different directions, because we do have a lot of firepower in our main base as we stand. Okay, so let's see, what do we get next? When you only have one Mirador, well, I already have two of them, so that's not what we're going to be doing. We can get a damage buff from buildings next to neutral buildings, which we don't have just yet, although we will be getting those, or we can get another 100 supply and a sturdy bunker. I don't really love any of these options, but I'm going to be placing buildings next to neutral buildings, assuming we find any. So let's go with that for now. Okay, so once again, let's go down the same route. Although I do really like especially this option sometimes as well. But I want to be buffing my headquarters as much as I can. There is something to say for going for the Durendal cannons first, by the way. But yeah, I dedicated myself to the Mirador now. And there's definitely a lot of different strategies in this game that you can follow. Now, what do we pick next? We could pick up another Mirador. We could pick up Triumphant Conquest, give us a little bit of a damage boost, and pick up a Bastion. Did we already have a Bastion? No. Yeah, let's go with that. I'm not sure if that's the best pick. And now we're going to get new threats. So if we click on that, we can check out what type of enemies we have. Some of them are flying, some of them are moving. Now we have a camouflage type of enemy. So this is why we need the detection from the Miradors. And we have an enemy that's going to be splitting up when it dies. So that's interesting. Okay, so let's see. What do we have here? Oh, this is actually an empty thing. That is interesting. There's not that many places where we can put that. We could put it over here. Maybe. Do I want to re-roll this? I am actually not entirely sure what I want to do with this. I'm just going to place it here because... Ooh, what's this? What's just... Oh. Okay, so this is a neutral building. If we place any building next to it, so one of our turrets, for example, this will activate. And this is going to slow down any foes in range 3. Now, the problem with that is because it's on an empty tile that has no roads on it, that is probably not going to be all that useful. So that's a little bit unfortunate, but we'll have to deal with it as it is. Okay, let's upgrade to close support, and now I'm just gonna go and wait for the Durendal turrets to be available, which is going to require 1500 supply, so that's quite a bit. You can speed things up if you want things to be over a little bit quicker, and I think that is exactly what I'm going to do. I am going to pick the supply in this case because I want that Durendal's turrets. And yeah, once you get into a flow with this game, it's really chaotic. Oh, some of them actually got through, so that is important to note. Let's pick up some recon and a scout hideout. Now, the nice thing about that is, which I'll show you in a minute. Okay, so now I can do this. Actually, let me do this instead for now. This is actually going to connect these things up, so that makes me a little bit less vulnerable for enemies coming from this side, because this were two very short paths. We still have a very short path over here as well. But what I wanted to show you is the scout hideout. This is a building that doesn't do a lot of damage, but it does have a very nice range, as you can see. Wondering where I should put this. If I put it over here, it's going to cover most angles from buildings coming in. This is the most vulnerable angle though, so we could go with this. Yeah, this will be fine, I think. This also has detection, which is really nice. We can give it some more weapons, and we can start upgrading this as well once we get some more recon. And the nice thing about these scout things is if we could get any recon production, that's basically a secondary type of thing that we can spend our money on. Now, still gonna send in the new waves. Maybe I'll slow it down a little bit so you can actually see what's going on. There's a few enemies coming through. More and more are actually getting through. So I do want those Durendal cannons up and running as soon as I can. More scouts, a bastion, and a retribution position, which is really good, but also really expensive. The Imperial barracks are actually going to buff my main building. And I can also buff my scout hideout. So that might be worth going for. Either one of those might work. This is actively going to buff my damage right now. We have those new guys coming in. I am hoping we're going to be surviving, otherwise this is going to be a very short video. Yeah, several of them got through there. That's because this route is just way too short, so the next tile is going to need to go here. That's the main reason I'm getting damaged, but I do have quite a bit of repair, so as long as I don't die outright during a wave, I am going to be just fine. Let's pick up the bastion over here. Let's add a corner over there. What is this? A techno amplifier, minus 50% upgrade cost for adjacent buildings. Now, we definitely want to take advantage of that, but Durendal cannons are up first. So let's see if this will kind of help us survive a little bit better against those enemies. Why are you guys not shooting at this? I mean, you should be able to reach those. Is this height in the way? That might be the problem, actually. That would be very unfortunate. I would really have loved to get some supply now. I'm so close, but we're going to have to stick it out. Let's pick up some more barracks. And let's send in another wave. So on the next wave, for sure, we'll be able to get those Durendal cannons. And hopefully we'll be struggling a little bit less with these waves now. Because you can see this is nowhere near enough damage that I'm currently doing. Mostly because of those cloaked units, though. Oh, the intel grid. HQ gains detection. That's going to be massive in order to make sure I survive a bit better. Okay, so If I do this, that doesn't actually solve anything, really. If I do this, more enemies are going to come from this direction. That might be kind of cool. That is where most of my guns currently are. But the most important thing is we're going to get our Durendal turrets up and running. Now, just for comparison's sake, these guys are doing 80 damage, while the initial weapons that I had were doing less than half of that. So, yeah, it's basically as strong as the starting turret that this main guy has on top of it. And now we have 4 more of those. So that should add in a lot of firepower. Now, it's interesting that there's no sign that my HQ has detection, but you can see it's now just demolishing also all of those stealth units. And nothing is getting even close. So it was worth saving up for those very expensive upgrades. What's next? We could get not a Mirador. That's probably not a bad idea, because that's going to add in some more firepower to my HQ. And where am I going to be putting that? I'm thinking here, because this is again the shortest route to my HQ. And this is going to cover some of that angle as well. I'm once again just going to go for the same thing. Now, in this particular game, it is usually a good idea to kind of double up on a certain strategy rather than trying to pick something of everything. Initial buildings by themselves are also typically not that strong until you upgrade them, so it's also worth kind of like upgrading your buildings rather than just trying to build as many of them as you can. Now, getting a 10% damage increase to my main base is super nice. Getting the discount to Miradors is also nice. It doesn't just apply to the building costs, it actually applies to the upgrading costs as well. But yeah, 10% damage on my HQ, which is right now doing the majority of my damage, is going to be awesome. If I do this, and I can get another corner. Ooh, 40 supply production. That is very nice. I kind of want to grab that. Maybe I put a werewolf there? Just because I can. This is going to cover a lot of incoming buildings as well. And this is going to pay for itself in about, what is it, 8 turns? Which is quite a lot. But it is going to add up over time, and don't forget we get a turret out of that. Now, I'm not going to upgrade this turret just yet, I think. But it is going to add in quite a bit of damage. Look at that. That's quite nice. Okay then. Yeah, this is not going that bad. We're about halfway through now. That might feel like we're almost there, but the last few waves are far more powerful than the initial wave, so it really ramps up really quickly. Ooh, on threat reveal, gain 400 supply, HQ gains 100 HP each time you place a building. This is going to majorly buff everything we're doing. We have plenty of buildings. The frontline trenches are kind of nice, but yeah, this is going to be awesome. So every time we now build a building, our HQ is going to get more HP. But now I still don't know what I want to do next. Was this a werewolf? Yes. Actually, I want to build another wall roof over here and then start upgrading it, because this one is going to be really cheap to upgrade. But we need some more supply for that. But now we have a second one. I am a little bit worried about this area down here, because we don't have that much defenses there. But thanks to my headquarters having detection, which is awesome, the most important units that are threatening us here are actually not getting anywhere. So far, so good. Yeah, this is one of my better runs, honestly. We might actually make it. Who knows? Each building adjacent to at least one other building gains plus 5% rate of fire. I actually don't know if that applies to my headquarters as well. So let's see. It's now at 76% damage increase, and the rate of fire is just 5 shots per second. So if I pick this up, I'm just gonna try that. Let's pick this. This actually gained 5% rate of fire as well. So I buffed all those buildings over here. Just got that buff. I'm actually wondering, did the oh, we'll get to that in a moment. There we go. So we can actually close up one of the most vulnerable areas by doing this. We could also do this and then have an entire entry point locked off. But yeah, let's go with this one first. So that now means we only get enemies from down here and up here. And there's some enemies that are gonna go all the way around. They kind of like spread themselves around really nicely. But it does mean this werewolf over here is now not super useful anymore, I think. But let's find out. What was I saying? Yeah, that kind of means I might not want to upgrade this one anymore, because it's kind of like not in the direct line of fire of anything. We have upgraded this entirely. Maybe what I should do is build a nice little Imperial barracks over here. We could get some more weapons on this. And this is going to buff the HQ's HP and damage by 10%, but double if it's adjacent, which it is. So this is 20% damage increase to my headquarters. That's massive. And then I'm going to add some more weapons to it as soon as we get some more supply going. There we go. I hope by now you kind of see what I meant when I said this is a nice palette cleanser. It's really easy to pick up. It is not an easy game, but it is very easy to kind of just play around with. We don't really have a nice place for a secondary one of these, I think. Let's see. There's a height difference in there somewhere. Yeah, that's a bit of a shame. Anyway, all buildings deal plus 15% damage to shields, which is always good. We could get a minus 10% cost on the Imperial Barracks. We could buff our HQ by a lot. Yeah, we could just make our HQ super strong and able to take a lot of hits, although we don't want it to take that many hits, honestly. The decimation position we could maybe put over here. That might not be the worst place, or here. Interesting. Let's just go with this one and get our really buff HQ going. Now, where do we place this? Maybe over... I kind of want to raise this. Okay, this is where the platforms come in. So what I can do is, for example, place a platform here. Put another one on top of that. And then suddenly this is at the range 2. So it's now a lot higher than it was before. I raised it up, literally. And we can start buffing our headquarters once more. Using that same approach with those platforms also means we can flatten areas where there's height differences. So we can actually, for example, place down an Imperial Barracks if we want to. Now, ideally, the Imperial Barracks are, of course, adjacent to my headquarters. But, yeah, let's just pick one of these up. Okay, let's see. If we do this, this is really going to funnel enemies a little bit better to us. So that's really nice. I'm not getting a lot of those neutral buildings so far. I'm also thinking maybe we should put down another barracks somewhere. Oh, actually, let me show you. If you press tab, you can see the upgrade level of your buildings. And I apparently forgot to upgrade this Mirador over here. So let's do that. And then let's upgrade the other one next. That was really bad of me to forget about that one, honestly. Because we were trying to buff our headquarters. And apparently I was not doing that at all. Now see the amount of enemies coming in. And especially over here, we're kind of in a bit of danger because there's a lot of enemies coming through. But those enemies are also starting out really close to my base already, so there's not a lot of time to shoot at them. So far so good, and we have almost 11,000 health, which is honestly quite a lot. Okay, this is going to be awesome. So not only do we get another Mirador, we also buff the damage, rate of fire, and reload speed of the Miradors we already have. So yeah, there's obviously a very good choice to make there. Let's gain a lot more HP and damage on my headquarters again. And then maybe we put another one next to it. I actually kind of want to put it over here. But maybe if we raise it up a little bit. There we go. So it has a little bit more range to shoot at it. And there we go. Now this is not the most, I would say, engaging tactic, because we're kind of doing the same thing over and over again. But it works. And it's kind of satisfying to see everything running into our kill zone over here. Now some enemies are getting through, so we're definitely going to need to add in some more firepower at some point. And I think we might be kind of done with the Miradors once we upgrade the last one. Should we buff? This isn't really going to do much by itself, and I kind of like the Werewolf, so that's what I'm going for. But yeah, it's interesting to note we could upgrade it even further. I think we're good on that side. Let's make sure we have a little bit more range to work with here. Adjacent buildings gain 50% damage against shield and air units. That is quite a lot, honestly. If I do this... Huh. Yeah, actually that might work. Something else that might work is just doing this. Or even this. This is going to add a lot of damage. I think this is the better position. Or we could add several of those in here. But let's not get distracted too much. Let's finish what we were doing. There was a Mirador over here that we still needed to upgrade. There we go. I am also going to add some weapons to this one, because we were in the most danger here. And then I think the next thing might be a bastion either here or here, depending on how things look when we get there. It seemed to... Ooh, there's some flying units coming in here. Yeah, that's working out fine, I think. Actually, not bad. Nothing came through that wave. 14,000 health. Yeah, this is really nice. Ooh, this is a very nice long-range building. It's really expensive, though. Let's go with the Durendal position. And another one of these things. Okay, let me double check. So, let me think for a moment. Where do we want to go next? Okay, so there's a couple of things I'm wondering about. Now, this area seems to be sort of okay. We have a lot of firepower in that direction already. This area sort of as well, but I'm mostly worried about this angle over here. What we can do is a couple of things. So we can either put a Puma position over here, for example. That would cover a lot of stuff. And actually, Puma positions are really good against anti-air as well. So in that case, I might want to turn it around something like this, maybe? Alternatively, what we could do is put a Durendal on the same location, which would be an awesome position as well. That said, what we could also do is put a Bastion over here, which is going to cover kind of this angle, everything coming down there. Or we can even put it over here, but putting it over here, which is actually what I'm going to do, is going to give it a 50% damage against shield and air units. We can upgrade this as well. We can give it 60% reload speed because it is at height 0. And then we add some weapons to it later on. Or maybe another shield weapon that makes pretty much everything that comes through here that has a shield cry. But I might go just for the AoE weapons, not sure yet. As you can see, this Bastion by itself is already doing a lot of damage. And if we upgrade it now, which we can do during a wave as well, as you can see, this thing is by itself just handling everything coming through here. There are some units coming through here as well, so we do need to add in some firepower there. And the real question is, how do we want to do that? I could just keep buffing my HQ, which is not the worst decision, I think. Just add in another Mirador. Yeah, adding in some range over here is probably not bad, because that just gives this Durendal longer to shoot. And then I think I am just going to add in another one of these things over here. Oh, no. Okay, so you can actually cancel buildings if you want before you place them down, because I wanted to place it here. There we go. And by now you kind of know what I'm going to go for. That is another 30% HP, 50% damage, and 5% repair to my HQ. And I'm also going to add in a Werewolf over here. That is going to be awesome. That has a lot of range. It can pretty much hit everything, except for this area, which is kind of inconvenient. But other than that, we'll be fine. And hopefully that is going to add in the additional damage that we need to keep everything off our backs. Now these heavy flying units are a little bit of a problem, although yeah, we seem to be able to keep them off for now. It's not too bad if a couple of units get through, but if a couple of them get through, that's usually a sign that more are to follow. So we want to be careful about that. The south seems to be doing okay. As you can see, some of these units are taking the long way around, which is awesome, because that is where they're going to die, basically. And let's go for another Mirador in a retribution position. We might actually be building that at some point. Not sure yet. Okay, so 30% rate of fire and reload speed. No, let's go for the 75% extra damage and 1 additional range. That's now come to, it can even cover the south at some point now. We can have it do 100% extra damage and rate of fire, which is just going to cost me tech, which I haven't spent yet. Or give it some more AoE, but I don't think AoE is necessarily our problem. So let's add up to the damage and rate of fire. And then we can get either 100% damage in 1 range, double if adjacent to the HQ, which is something I kind of forgot about. We have a second Werewolf, which we could use that for. Or we can do 3 times as much damage, but end targets are slowed. So that's actually pretty awesome. We could do that. Maybe we can save up for that. We might actually be able to save up for that in a single wave, because we are getting more and more supply now per wave. And we have a lot of tankability, so if units get through, again, not the end of the world. We can tank some of it. So far, so good though. Yeah, there's a couple of flying units coming through. Yeah, okay, not bad, not bad. It was, I think, just a single unit that came through there. Now what do we want? Maybe another Durendal? You can never have too many of those. Let's add in some more range to this side. 10 recon production. Do I want that? Maybe. However, it's in a really awkward position, honestly, so that's it's a little bit unfortunate, so to say. So let's take the 300% damage increase on this and the slowing of targets. We did have the thing, right, where we had, if we're next to something, we get a buff. Every now and then I kind of forget. Did we have that? You get so many upgrades that every now and then I kind of... Oh yeah, so each building adjacent to at least one other building gains +5 rate of fire. So we could place another building next to this one and buff that, but I don't think that's really worth it. For now, anyway. We could pick up another Werewolf and maybe place it down over here so we can buff especially these 2 directions as well. Do we have any platforms? No, we don't. But we do now have the option to 75% damage in 1 range, which is really nice, or 60% rate of fire and reload speed. I mean, both of those are great, actually. But I think we might, yeah, let's just go with the more AoE, I think. I am still gonna go for this one because it's basically free. And then we're going to give it 200% damage and +2 range because it's next to the HQ once we get to 600. Which we will actually be able to get in just a moment here. There we go. That is so many units coming from this direction though. Ooh. Yeah, you can see a lot of units are getting through now and we are taking so much damage. This is not good. We are going to be able to heal from most of this damage though. We might need a retribution position to deal with that. What do we want? Maybe this, I don't know. Let's see. What is the range on this stuff? I feel like most of the dangerous units are coming through down here. And this is going to be able to cover most of that. Let's see. So 50% anti-air damage. And that was a pretty hefty problem that we had. I'm not sure we need to specifically target anti-air units though, we might just be able to go for the general 50% upgrade. How many battlefronts do we have? We have just a single battlefront now because we interconnected everything. So this upgrade might be worth it. This is going to make sure we do a lot more damage. I might have placed that in the wrong direction actually. Could have flipped it around a little bit because right now it's not shooting in this direction at all. Then again, anything that is most dangerous is close to my main base now. And look at that, we took a lot less damage there. So at least that is working like intended. Buffing our Warwolves is never a bad idea, because we have several of those at the moment. Especially the one with a major upgrade over here. Okay, we have another thingy. I am going to place this like this, and the reason I'm doing it like this is that it's going to spawn more units from this direction. We could give our HQ 50% more HP, that is a lot. But I want to focus on upgrading this thing first. So 50% additional damage, that is quite a lot. And what we could do here is decrease this damage by 50%, but add a lot more targets, a lot more explosion radius, and a lot more rate of fire. Which is basically going to turn this into an AoE demolisher. Or we could just go all out, spend 2900 supply, make it do 300% damage, and have a lot of more AoE damage as well. I don't think this is the optimal choice necessarily, not sure about that, but I'm gonna pick it anyway because I want to see the carnage that it's going to cause. Meanwhile, how are we doing in the other directions? Seems to be okay. I do want that Puma position maybe over there. Although we might want to place it over here or something, just because it then gets the 5% rate of fire buff as well. Not sure yet. Let's find out. I am going to get this upgrade as soon as I can though. Actually, we are fine, so let's wait to see if we get an upgrade that will help with that. We can get some sort of reduction. That is going to be awesome. Yeah, let's just upgrade the Warwolves even further. Let's make sure we upgrade this. Now, we have a lot of damage in this direction, so I want to focus on the other directions now. I could upgrade the thing over here, the main base. Not sure. Let's continue first. Just 4 more waves to go. Will I make it? Like I said, that would be the first time because these last waves are super strong. But yeah, this thing is doing so much damage. You can actually see how much damage it's doing in a wave. It's actually doing more damage than my HQ at this point. That just goes to show how strong it is. That was not bad. I actually didn't see where the main units were coming through. I don't really... I have definitely more than one Durendal. I don't think we're going to be able to afford an electric arc cannon, but we don't need an Imperial Barracks either, so yeah, let's just go for that. Where do we add the zone? Let's just make sure enemies will take longer to get to us over here. 10 discovery is going to determine how many of those neutral buildings you get. Now, usually I pick up most of them. They have been in very awkward locations this particular run, so that is why I'm not picking up as many of them as I usually would. I did have another Warwolf, right? Yeah. These are now really cheap. I think placing it over here might make sense, maybe over here. Yeah, this covers a lot of important angles. Let's go with this one, and now it's adjacent to this building as well. Let's get that one. Let's get this one, and yeah, maybe... Yeah, let's save up for this one as well, because slowing our targets is super useful. Slow targets are obviously not moving as fast, and thereby we get a lot more time to fire at them with all the other guns. So the more slow you have, the easier it is to kill everything. Let's pick it up right now, just to play it safe. Oh, there are some enemies getting through. We need more AoE by the looks of it still. That is a little bit surprising, but I thought I had that covered for the most part. It looks like we might need some more. Okay, so this is something that will target high damage units. We don't need a zone command to request more supply, so let's go with the supply and bunker. And let's check out the enemies we get for the last few waves. Immune to slow and a shield. Okay, I don't like any of these. And we're going to get a very powerful host, which basically just has a lot of HQ. Okay, so this is going to shoot in a lot of different directions. It's also really hard to place, but we have this nice open area over here. I'm just gonna go for this building. This is going to add in a lot of power. +1 range if at height 0. Adjacent buildings gain plus 15% damage, so there's nothing adjacent to it yet. We can slow targets. One more range would put it in range of this area over here. Not sure if that's our main priority though. Let's just slow everything. This is going to do additional damage adjacent buildings. HQ suffers 500 damage each wave. That's not really a problem. But none of this is going to really do anything for us right now. This is going to give us +3 range or +4 range per battlefront. But we only have a single battlefront, so there we go. Now that's completely upgraded electric arc cannon. We still have some money left. What are we going to do with that? I am not quite sure. I kind of want to save up for the Puma position to maybe add in some anti-air somewhere. Let's check where we think we have the most damage. The slow is really adding up though, so that is nice. I think I'm gonna add in another Durendal in between here, because now this buffs the rate of fire of both of those buildings. I can buff the range. I can buff the damage as well. There we go. None of these are going to be particularly interesting, so let's go with this one. One more wave to go, and this is going to be potentially a disaster. But let's find out. Let's add in a little bit more range from over here, because I think we're weakest there. I'm not going to be upgrading that one. I think I'm going to add in that Puma position over here for the anti-air. Let's upgrade it for that purpose as well. Let's upgrade it some more. We are now out of tech, but we did spend most of it, so that's a good thing. And we can upgrade it with some additional anti-air if we need to. However, this is either the last one or second to last one wave. I'm not entirely sure about that actually. Yeah, we're doing a lot of AoE. These guys are going to be a problem though. I'm just gonna go and add in some more of these. Buff my HQ a little bit more. Oh, these guys are not dying at all. How much damage is that? We definitely need to kill this one, otherwise... no, we might be able to survive it just about. Nice. Okay. Supply production at this point is not that useful. We don't want to debuff our buildings either. Well, let's just go for this one. Okay, now we have an even more powerful unit coming through. I have a feeling that might be a problem. I am just not entirely sure what to do about that. Let's add in the heavy weapons over here. And yeah, I think that's just about what we can do. I have some supply left, we might as well spend it on some buildings if we feel like we have a problem in any particular direction. I think it might actually be over here, to be honest. Just gonna go... Ooh, I might not want it to reduce my damage of my HQ. I don't think it's gonna matter because we are completely overrun, as you can see. On the last wave. Oh no. Why on the last wave? We're not even that far off. I mean, these are the last few units, but some of it's going to come through. Yep, there we go. We died on the almost last wave. However, this does allow me to show you what happens. So if you play the game for a few more times, the more you play it, the more things you unlock, the stronger upgrades you get. And you guys can probably do a lot better than me. I'm still learning this game, to be honest, but it is really fun and really addicting, and you do need to channel all the combinations and positions in an optimal way if you want to survive on the higher difficulty. So I hope you enjoyed this little showcase. You get, oh, look at a new hero unlocked. That's nice. Repair the HQ for 50,000 HP in a single expedition. Yeah, that sounds about right. So you get kind of a score, you get a new unlocks, you get new buildings and things like that. The more you play it, it's really fun and enjoyable, I think. Anyway, let me know. Do you want to see more of this? There's plenty of content I could make on this, considering there's a lot of different heroes, and I might actually be able to survive all the waves. But let me know if this interests you at all. If you're still here, you are awesome, and I do hope to catch you in the next one.